this world? Is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.
Let us consider this problem. The human eye opens at a rather late stage in the development of the individual. He has already done the most marvelous work he will ever do. In a mysterious way, in his mother's womb, he has built a human body. And this body has organs that are directed to certain ends and intentions. And these were not the organs designed by reason, designed by consciousness. Reason and consciousness comes to itself and asks later, what is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? Why is it I do this and that? Why is it I do this and that? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? Furthermore, the coming of the eyes into the general biological picture is very late. Life had already originated hundreds of millions of years before eyes opened and saw what was going on, saw what life was doing. Now if you will see and think what it is that life does, that life has to do in order to be life. It has to kill and eat other life. That's the basic thing. This is a rather monstrous thing. And when the eyes see what the situation is on which its own life depends, its own existence, when conscience and consciousness become aware of the preconditions of their own existence, there is often a sense of shock, a sense of horror. You know, the basic word of Buddhism, all life is sorrowful. That's one way of recognizing this. There is also the feeling many have of guilt simply for being alive. This is, in a way, symbolized in the image of the fall in the garden. Life is monstrous. Life is monstrous. What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? Why is it I do this and that? Why is it I do this and that? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for?
So long as I have my sword to fight with, I'm sure to survive. Year after year, I prove it to be true. Before joining the Hawks, I always survived. No matter the odds, no matter how hopeless a losing battle, this time was no different. In truth, I don't believe that's any way to live one's life. I've been fighting in battles for as long as I can remember. The mercenary leader who raised me taught me nothing except how to wield a sword. I've never had anything except my sword. is the only reason I keep fighting. There is nothing to save myself for or give myself to. I fight because I know nothing else. Once I was willing to do just that, to commit myself to fighting, and let anyone else find a reason for me.
Everlastingly. No, I may not tell the best. Surely, friends, I could have guessed. Death was but the good king's jest. It was hid so carefully.
Is this reality? It has always been at my side. Through pain I could hardly endure. Yes, this is part of me.
One of the very great things that C.G. Jung contributed to mankind's understanding was the concept of the shadow. That everybody has a shadow. And that the main task of the psychotherapist is to do what he called to integrate the evil. To, as it were, put the devil in us in its proper function. Because you see, it's always the devil, the unacknowledged one, the outcast, the scapegoat, the bastard, the bad guy. You see, the black sheep of the family. It's always from that point, which we could call the fly in the ointment. You see, that generation comes. In other words, in the same way as in the drama, to have the play, it's necessary to introduce a villain. It's necessary to introduce a certain element of trouble. So, in the whole scheme of life, there has to be the shadow. The shadow. The bastard, the bad guy, the black sheep of the family. The shadow. their mind whether they're saints or devils. So holy people have, throughout history, always created a great deal of trouble, along with their creative results. Take Jesus, for example. The trouble that Jesus created is absolutely incalculable. Think of the Crusades, the Inquisition, heaven only knows what's gone on in the name of Jesus. Freud's a big troublemaker, as well as a great healer. You see, it all goes together. Earthquakes, or better still, he's like the ocean. See the ocean on a lovely sunny day, you can say, oh, isn't that gorgeous? And you can go into it and relax and float around. But boy, when the storm comes, does that thing get mad? It's terrifying. So there is in us the ocean, you see. And Jung felt that the whole point was to bring the two together by a kind of fantastic honesty, to penetrate one's own motivations to the depths.
Yes. Why should I regret anything at this point? There's no use in repenting for my sins. It will make no difference. There's nothing I can give back to the dead to undo what I have done. This is my chosen path. If I let myself feel regret or remorse, it could all slip away. And then I would never reach my destined throne.
Evil for me is differentiated from tragedy by its lack of necessity and its voluntarism. Evil is more pernicious than that which is generated by social inequality. I think it's actually a form of demonically aesthetic. Aesthetic. Evil is more pernicious than that. Demonically aesthetic. The motto on the gates of Auschwitz, work will make you free. That's an aesthetic of evil. To make a joke. It's a terrible, ironic joke. It's instructive to meditate on what sort of imagination would have the arrogance to tell such a terrible joke. Demonically aesthetic.
thousands of enemies. Only one. Only you, and you alone, obscured the vision of my dream. I submit.
Down below there, we have the shadow, as Jung calls it. It's like the blind spot for ego. That about yourself, of which your ego is completely unconscious, of which it has no knowledge whatsoever. This shadow, in Jung's terminology, corresponds almost precisely to the Freudian unconscious. The Freudian unconscious is constituted of repressed experiences, repressed shocks, and it is these shocks that have set up the slant, the posture, the structuring attitude of the individual to life. It's these that constitute the personal unconscious, the shocks that will have upset and transformed the life experience of one person will not be precisely the same as those that will have done so for another. And so the shadow is the order of what Jung calls the personal unconscious. On the other hand, the self is a function of the biology of the body. We have two things here. We have a basic human biology, and we have then a system of individual experiences, both in the unconscious realm. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. And dreams, of course, will be primarily personally oriented. They will have come from the shadow system mostly, but the shadow system rests on the deeper ground. When we come to myths, the imagery is out of the general system. And Jung speaks of two orders of dream. There'll be one order of symbols that you can interpret by personal association, the free association technique that Freud used. But there will be then other images in your dreams at certain critical moments in your life that cannot interpret through personal associations. They will be strictly mythological in their character. On the other hand, you can have dreams that have to do with personal experiences that are quite peculiar to yourself. And these Jung calls the small or little dreams, and the others the big dreams. Often big dreams occur in technicolor. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come. That dreams come. That dreams come.
It's just my nature. I'd rather fight with my sword than run away, that's all.
So that's the only reason? You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
I read this New Testament line.
decades ago. I could never understand it. The line is, the meek shall inherit the earth. And I thought, there's something wrong with that line. It just doesn't make sense to me. Meek just doesn't seem to me to be a moral virtue. Meek is not a good translation. What it means is this: those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. Will inherit the world. Those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. That's a big difference. It's so great. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You should try to win. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. Absolute monster. And then you should learn how to control it. It's like, is there something wrong with being competitive? There's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with cheating.